Hi, I'm Nathan Shively-Sanders, and this is part 2 of the Definitely Typed Omnibus. In this part, I'm going to be talking about what's new to maintaining Definitely Typed in the version I'm calling 0.0.3. We don't use real simver, but this feels like the third major iteration of Definitely Typed. It's a diff from a previous, I think, five-year-old presentation I made, what definitely not to do to definitely typed to do well. For maintaining definitely typed 0.0.2. I'm just going to be talking about what changed. At a high level, definitely typed has been a monorepo for quite some time, but now it's this monorepo using standard node modules structure and package JSON and so on, and it makes its dependencies explicit. And we're using PNPM to manage all of that stuff instead of writing a bunch of code ourselves. And I'll sort of explain how that works on the next slide. The biggest difference is that package JSON is now present for all packages, and it's required, and it has all of the data that used to be in this header that was at the top of index.d.ts. So you can see here, like, stuff basically just moved and is now in a JSON form. There's this name actually could be some others. You could type kind of anything here. Now it has to be the name of the directory you're in. It's pretty simple. The version was just major and minor. It's still just major and minor, but there's a 999 filled in to satisfy NPM structure. When it's actually published, the publisher is going to publish starting at 0, and then it'll bump patch version for each time that the types update. Project, same. Definitions goes down to owners. Owners is not actually a standard package JSON field. Contributors is, but contributors only has a URL here, and we really want to have a GitHub username if people have them, so that we can ping people when PRs come through. You're still allowed to just put URL here, but the CI will encourage you to put GitHub username. I can't remember exactly the details. One thing that's not in this example, but it does show up some places, is that the minimum TypeScript version in the header is now a JSON entry. That just means that we don't test on 4.3 and below. And usually people will put that cutoff in because their package uses some new syntax that was new in, say, 4.4, and that it just won't compile in 4.3 and below. So that's package JSON. That's the big one. Oh, I forgot actually. So dependencies are now explicit, which is it was some work to put together, but it's now much easier for humans and computers to figure out dependencies because they're explicit. They're just in package JSON. So we can see that A-frame depends on anime.js types and 3JS type 3 types. It is 3JS. And the tests depend on A-frame itself. And this is required because if you have tests, they need to be testing the types themselves. And so they use this special PNPM syntax, which is a self-link. And that's why we're using PNPM, by the way. It's the only one that supported self-links as well as it does. You can have multiple versions of the same package that all self-link to each other. You can have non-@types dependencies here, but you will have to add an exception in the definitely typed tools repo because external references are still checked by a human. Okay, tsconfig is now simpler and almost never has additions. The biggest thing is that base URL and type roots are gone. They used to vary depending on your folder structure, and they're now just gone because that was what we were using to do the fake monorepo before. It's now all done by PNPM and symlinks. Lib still varies, but it varied before, so if you need ES2020, obviously you have to have ES2020 here. And then module can now be Node 16. Unrelatedly, for now, you are still required to have an index.dts, even if your original package does not have an index.js or index.mjs or something. That's going to change pretty soon. There is an exception if you have React Native dependents. There's some mistake in some. So one of the packages out there and the way they publish their types, and we had to redirect React Native manually to the React Native that's inside of DT instead of using an old version, basically. So if you're looking at a React Native package, they might have this and nothing else should. I would also be suspicious, really, of any new package, any new PR that comes in that adds this, even for React Native. Just double check this to make sure that it's actually needed and they're not just copying an existing piece of code. npm ignores replaced other files.txt. npm ignores good. It's standard, and the content is always exactly the same. The reason other files was needed is that previously the publisher would only publish DTS files that were reachable from index.d.ts. And now all DTS files are published and nothing else. So there's no need for specifically listing other files, and there's no way to like publish your own README, which is a little too bad, but it just isn't something we've really ever done. I don't think it worked before either. Just be sure to review all DTS files because there's no non-functional DTS files in DT anymore. Coming soon, TSLint is almost replaced by .eslint rc.json. So we're running both ESLint and TSLint right now, but there's only 2 more TSLint rules. It says 3, but since I've written this, it's now down to 2. We're almost down to 1. And TSLint requires this single line in every single package in the repo. ESLint RC is only needed when there's an explicit override of some kind. Otherwise, it implicitly extends its parent. So there's a lot fewer of these in the repo currently. We prefer override comments. So ideally, like there would be almost none of these in the repo. But yeah, coming soon, TSLint will be gone and all of these files will go away. Oh yeah, coming soon, index.tts still required, not much longer, and DT will understand main and exports even better and allow you to just create a DTS file that matches whatever the JS file is for the package.